Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going on this journey through Admiral William H. McRaven's Make Your Bed, little things that can change your life and maybe the world.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
You might have heard of it. It all started with that crazy popular commencement speech. At UT Austin, we're going to really break down these 10 life lessons that McRaven shares in the book. He's a retired Navy SEAL with a seriously impressive career.
Yeah, and it's not all just military stuff. What makes McRaven's perspective so interesting is he connects these small, everyday things to achieving bigger goals, even impacting the world around you.
Right. It's like those tiny little atomic habits,
Yeah.
that build up to massive change. So let's just dive into the first lesson, the one that everyone knows, make your bed. We've all heard this a million times, but McRaven takes it to another level. He talks about how during the crazy demanding SEAL training, this one little act became the cornerstone of their discipline.
It is fascinating how he connects this simple task to a sense of control. He says that in this crazy world,
Right.
starting your day with a completed task, no matter how small, sets a tone of order and accomplishment.
Yeah. It makes me think about that story McRaven tells about seeing Saddam Hussein's bedroom after they captured him.
Oh, yeah.
Hussein's bed was a disaster, totally opposite from the order McRaven was trained in.
It really is a powerful visual.
It is. This tiny little detail says so much about their mindsets.
Totally. And that's what McRaven wants us to think about, that ripple effect.
Yeah.
From these seemingly small actions, if you can handle making your bed. What else can you handle? It's not really about the bed. It's about having the discipline to tackle anything.
Right. So think about this. What's your make your bed equivalent? What one small task can you do every day to feel that sense of accomplishment and set yourself up for success?
It's all about finding that one habit. That creates momentum for everything else. And that leads perfectly into McRaven's second lesson.
Yeah.
You can't go it alone. Yeah. He tells this great story about the 10-foot rubber raft exercises. During SEAL training, imagine 7 totally exhausted guys having to carry this heavy raft everywhere.
Oh, man. I bet those rafts felt like a small car after a while.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And McRaven's point is that, someone was always struggling, injured, sick, just plain worn out. And that's when the team really mattered. The stronger guys would paddle even harder for their teammate, share their food, do whatever it took to keep everyone moving.
Yeah. It shows how important it is to depend on each other, recognizing that we all need support sometimes, and that asking for help isn't weak, it's strong.
For sure. And looking at it the other way, it's about seeing when someone on your team needs help and being willing to step up, no hesitation. It goes both ways, that's for sure.
Right. It reminds me of what McRaven went through after his parachute accident. It almost killed him. He talks about how his wife, Georgian, and all his friends and colleagues, they were his lifeline. Wow.
They helped him recover physically, yeah. But also mentally, he thought he might lose his career. That's tough. It shows that we all have those boat crew members, the people we can depend on, and just as important, the people we support in return. Thinking about who those people are for you is really valuable.
I agree.
Okay, ready for lesson 3. This one's called Only the Size of Your Heart Matters. It's a great reminder to never judge a book by its cover. McRaven tells this story about a small seaman recruit getting grilled by this giant SEAL instructor.
I remember that one. The instructor keeps saying the recruit is too small to handle the training. He even holds up his tiny flippers like it's a joke or something.
Oh, yeah. It's almost funny, right? But the recruit doesn't back down. He insists he wants to be a frogman. And the instructor, with this, mischievous look in his eye, leans in and whispers, "Prove me wrong."
And he did. That small seaman ended up being amazing in training, showing everyone that grit and determination are more important than how you look. Absolutely. It makes us really challenge those surface judgments, both when we're judging ourselves and when we're judging others. It's like that saying, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about.
So it's true.
It is.
And McRaven really drives this point home by sharing how he misjudged someone. He was visiting the SEAL training facility, and he saw this thin, unassuming guy looking at photos of SEALs in action. And McRaven admits he kind of wrote the guy off, thinking, does this guy think he's tough enough for this?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it turns out that frail guy was Lieutenant Tom Norris, a Medal of Honor recipient who did these amazing things in Vietnam.
Talk about a lesson in humility.
Yeah, for real.
It's a reminder that we never really know what someone can do until they get the chance.
Right. It makes me think about all the times I might have underestimated someone, or even myself, just based on first impressions. We've all done that, right?
Totally. So let's flip this around. Think about a time you defied expectations. or saw someone else do it. It could be anything. Acing a presentation, leading a project, even just pushing through something tough personally. Those moments show the inner strength we all have.
Yeah, those are the moments that remind us
Yeah.
that we can do way more than we think. And sometimes it's about seeing that in others, too, giving them the space to step up. Which leads us to McRaven's next lesson. And this one might be a little tough to hear. Life isn't fair. Drive on. He talks about this thing in SEAL training called the sugar cookie.
The sugar cookie, huh? Sounds kind of nice, but I'm guessing it wasn't really a treat.
You got it. It was basically punishment for messing up. And sometimes it was totally random. Imagine having to jump in the freezing ocean, then roll around in the sand until you're covered, head to toe, and then spend the rest of the day like that, wet and sandy.
Oh, man. That sounds like a nightmare. I can't even imagine how uncomfortable and embarrassing that must have been.
Exactly. McRaven says it was supposed to teach them a lesson, a tough one, but important. Life throws curveballs. Sometimes bad things happen, and there's no reason why. It's about accepting that you can't control everything and focusing on what you can control, your reaction.
Right. It's like focusing on your circle of influence. You can't stop the rain, but you can choose to dance in it.
Perfectly said.
Yeah.
McRaven says that dwelling on the unfairness, getting stuck in that victim mindset, just makes you stuck. It's about adapting, learning, and moving forward.
It makes me think about McRaven's friend, Lieutenant Philip Mookie Martin. He really shows what this lesson is about. Mookie was this amazing SEAL, an incredible athlete, training for triathlons and everything, and then he got hit by a car while cycling and was paralyzed from the waist down.
Wow.
It would have been so easy for him to be bitter and angry.
I can't even imagine.
But Mookie didn't. He became this great painter, a loving father. He even started the Super Frog Triathlon, held every year in Coronado. He refused to let this tragedy define him and found new ways to contribute and live his life.
That's amazing.
It reminds us that we all have sugar cookie moments. Those setbacks that feel so unfair. Maybe it's losing your job, a health scare, or someone betraying you. But Mookie's story makes us ask, how can we drive on like he did and find meaning and purpose despite those challenges?
It's about seeing those moments as chances to grow and change, even though they might hurt a lot at the time. And McRaven's next lesson, failure can make you stronger, is a really empowering way to look at that.
Okay, let's talk about failure. Not exactly a fun topic, but McRaven says it's crucial for growth. He talks about this dreaded thing in SEAL training called the circus. It was basically extra training as punishment for those who didn't make the cut.
The circus. Sounds ironic,
Okay.
considering it was anything but fun.
Yeah.
After you were slow on a run or couldn't do enough pull-ups, you were added to the circus list. Extra hours of intense exercise on top of an already crazy day with the instructors pushing you nonstop.
Oh, man. Sounds brutal. Designed to break you, both physically and mentally.
It was. But McRaven and his swim buddy, Mark Thomas, they found themselves on that list a lot, especially after struggling with those long swims. It would have been easy to give up under that pressure.
Right, I know I would. Who wants to sign up for more pain and exhaustion?
Exactly.
But McRaven says they noticed something. Even though the circus was supposed to be punishment, it was making them stronger.
That's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it?
It is.
Pushing their limits in those brutal sessions
Yeah.
built up their endurance and confidence. What was meant to break them ended up making them more resilient.
And it paid off big time. Remember that 5-mile swim they kept failing? After weeks of the circus, they ended up finishing first.
Wow.
It shows you the power of seeing failure as a way to train, as a step towards getting better.
So true. A lot of success in anything, really, is about how you handle setbacks. Do you let them define you? Or do you use them to learn, adapt, and come back even stronger?
I like that.
McRaven's experience in the circus shows us that sometimes. The path to success goes right through our toughest challenges.
Totally. It's about changing your perspective, looking for the lessons, even the hidden opportunities in those moments of failure. Speaking of pushing boundaries, McRaven's next lesson, you must dare greatly, takes us to the slide for a life obstacle. Picture this 30-foot tower with a rope stretched to another tower 100 feet away.
Oh, yeah. The safe way down was to go possum style, hanging underneath the rope and slowly inching your way across, slow and steady, but not exactly exciting.
Right. But then there was the commando style, where you basically just went headfirst down the rope.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a leap of faith. It was way faster, but also way riskier.
And that's a great way to show what McRaven's talking about. Sometimes taking risks is essential for growth and achieving amazing things. It's about going beyond your comfort zone,
Yeah.
ignoring that voice that says, play it safe.
Yeah. I love that he uses this physical challenge
Right.
to talk about the mental leap it takes to go after your goals. It's like
Yeah.
if you always play it safe,
Yeah.
you're probably missing out on a lot.
Exactly. It's about weighing the potential rewards
Yeah.
against the risks and making that choice to step outside your comfort zone. Reminds me of that hostage rescue mission in Iraq that McRaven talks about. The commander had to approve a risky helicopter landing in broad daylight, right in the middle of a compound, to save the hostages.
Wow. That's intense.
It was a bold move, but it worked. And all the hostages were saved. It really shows that size motto, who dares wins.
For sure.
And of course, we're not saying to be reckless. It's about calculated risks, informed decisions that have the potential for big rewards. So here's the challenge for you. What's one calculated risk you could take to move towards a goal you have? Maybe it's finally starting that business, having that difficult conversation, or applying for that dream job.
It's about asking yourself, what's something that scares you, but also excites you? And what would it look like to take a step in that direction? Now, are you ready to face some sharks? Because McRaven's next lesson is all about standing up to the bullies. And he starts with this vivid description of night swimming in shark-infested waters.
Knowing there are great whites down there, that's like a whole other level of fear.
I know, right? Like something out of Jaws. But McRaven says they were trained to not back down if a shark came near. No freaking out and swimming away. No showing you're scared.
Makes sense. Sharks can sense fear, just like bullies.
Exactly. And get this, if the shark charged, they were supposed to punch it in the nose.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's amazing how that training applies to any kind of bully. On the playground, at work, even dealing with someone like Saddam Hussein.
Oh, yeah. McRaven even had that encounter with Hussein. After they captured him,
Uh-oh.
even though he wasn't in power anymore, Hussein was still trying to intimidate everyone.
But McRaven and his team shut it down. They took away all his symbols of power, his uniform, his ability to command people. It was a subtle way of saying, your bullying tactics don't work here.
That's powerful.
It all goes back to that confidence. Even when you don't feel confident, bullies want you to feel small and powerless, but when you stand up to them, you take their power away.
So how do we find that courage in our own lives?
Maybe it's about practicing being assertive, setting boundaries, or just having people around who support us. It's remembering that we all have that strength inside to face those metaphorical sharks.
And sometimes that strength comes from just knowing you're not alone, knowing others have been through similar things and come out stronger. Which brings us to McRaven's 8th lesson, be your best in dark moments. He describes this super intense nighttime dive. During SEAL training, imagine swimming 2,000 meters underwater in almost total darkness to plant a fake mine on a ship.
Oh, wow. Talk about pressure. I'd be totally claustrophobic.
Right. Sounds disorienting and dangerous. But McRaven says his instructors told them that in those moments, when things were the toughest, that's when their true character would show.
Yeah. It's like you don't really know yourself. Until you've been tested, pressure can either break you or bring out your best.
Exactly.
It makes me think about what McRaven says about a ramp ceremony, honoring a fallen soldier. So much grief, the weight of loss.
It's a heavy moment.
But he talks about how, even with all the sadness, everyone there, the soldiers, families, community, they all rose to the occasion with dignity and grace.
It's like in those times of shared grief, something changes inside us.
I think so too.
It's about finding that inner strength, that resilience that lets you be there for others and honor those who are gone. So it's a good question to ask ourselves. What are our sources of strength when we're facing tough or even tragic times? Where do we find that grounding, that ability to keep going when things feel impossible?
It could be faith, family, friends, even just a deep sense of purpose. It's about knowing what keeps us anchored when life gets stormy.
And speaking of storms, McRaven's next lesson takes us back to Hell Week and the Tijuana Mud Flats exercise. It's freezing, everyone's exhausted, and the instructors are doing everything to make people quit.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading about that. They even offered hot coffee and a warm fire. Just 5 guys would ring the quit bell. Talk about temptation. Seriously. So easy to give in when you're that drained. And some guys were about to. McRaven saw one student really struggling, almost ready to quit. But then something incredible happened. Another student started singing.
Singing?
In the mud flats. Yeah, some random song. Probably off key. But it was a spark. Then another student joined in. And another. Until the whole class was singing. They stood up to the instructors, found strength in their shared experience, and gave each other hope to keep going.
Wow. It's amazing how something like that can change the whole feeling of a situation.
Yeah.
That ripple effect again, right? One
Yeah.
person's actions can inspire a whole group.
McRaven compares it to. Those leaders who inspired hope, Washington, Lincoln, King, Mandela, they could all rally people around a shared vision, a belief in something bigger than themselves.
And it doesn't have to be something huge. Sometimes just a kind word or a helping hand can make a big difference for someone who's struggling.
Absolutely.
So this lesson asks us, how can we be a source of hope and encouragement? For others, even in little ways, it's a reminder that we can all be a light for someone, help them through tough times. Which brings us to McRaven's last lesson, maybe the most powerful one. Never, ever quit.
What?
He starts by talking about the quit bell in SEAL training, that option to just tap out.
Yeah, it's the ultimate symbol of giving up, something we all face.
Yeah.
That temptation to just walk away when things get hard.
But McRaven's instructor told them on day one, ringing that bell would be something they'd regret forever. And McRaven's seen, both in the military and in life, how strong the human spirit can be. He tells this moving story about a young Army Ranger, Adam Bates.
Yeah, I remember that story.
Bates was only 19 when he stepped on a mine in Afghanistan and lost both legs.
So young.
But what's amazing is how Bates reacted. He couldn't talk because of his injuries. So he signed to McRaven, "I will be okay."
It's hard to imagine having that kind of resilience after something so devastating.
It is.
But Bates kept his promise. A year later, he was standing on prosthetic legs, challenging his fellow Rangers to a pull-up contest. It shows that even though we can't always control what happens, we can control how we respond. We can let adversity define us, or we can rise above it.
Bates's story, and all the stories McRaven tells, remind us that we all have that strength inside. It's about finding it, refusing to ring the bell, and pushing forward no matter what.
Absolutely. So here's the final challenge. Inspired by all these stories,
Thank you.
what's one area of your life where you could recommit to never giving up, maybe a personal goal, a creative project, or just being more present in your relationships?
It's about finding those areas where you might be tempted to quit and choosing instead to keep going, to write a new ending to your story.
McRaven's book is a call to action. It reminds us that small disciplines can lead to big things and that the human spirit is incredibly strong. We hope this deep dive gave you some new insights and inspired you to think about how you can use these 10 lessons in your own life.
And as McRaven asks, what if we all created environments that support these positive behaviors at home, at work, in our communities? Imagine the impact that could have.
It's a powerful thought. We all have the potential to make a difference, to create a world where people feel empowered, to be their best, to face challenges with courage, and to never give up on their dreams. Keep diving deep, friends. We'll see you next time, Mike.